Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, at 7:01, we'll start the meeting. Is there anyone who wishes to engage in public participation? Hearing none. Just for the record, and this should go in the minutes, Shane, are you on?
I
Yes,
am
Shane
Julia.
Oaks here.
All right, just for the minutes, when we get to the public safety building, Jerry is going to leave the meeting and
Okay.
recuse himself from any activity regarding the public safety building. Okay?
Yep.
And I'd like that noted in the minutes.
Tell people why.
If you've got your package, you'll see that one of the companies that is interested so far in the CM at risk happens to be Jerry's employer, Bond Brothers. So as a result, he will
Go Bond. Wait, I didn't say.
he will recuse himself. I talked to Jerry earlier. We talked earlier today. All right. So the first thing on the agenda after the public participation, since there was none, has to do with the Greenwood School. And this will make things real quick. There is no activity to report. There's no update. We will do so in 2 weeks when they're further, they hadn't had a chance to review any of the invoices. And once they had that and to get all the various documents, we're looking for the warranty, final documents needed. So Anthony needed a couple more weeks. So we're going to be doing that in 2 weeks. Okay.
Can I just ask a question? This is still an Eagle storage trailer in the parking lot. Is that the roof project storage trailer or is that from the playground?
I would have no idea. I'll find out.
It's now buried behind a pile of snow, but it is still
Is
sitting
Bob
there.
on?
What's that?
Is Bob from the school? Bob?
Yeah, I
Schroeder
don't
on?
think so. I don't think so.
No, I don't see him.
Okay.
I just wonder whose container it is all. Who's paying for it?
I can tell you that a lot of the schools have those storage containers, so it could be a school container.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be, to make more room in the classrooms, they needed place to store stuff during the school year.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll check and find out, Bill. If no one's using it, we'll take it. The second thing has to do with the DPW contract. I sent a copy of it out to everyone. Hopefully you may have a chance to take a quick look at it. I also sent it to town council, Mr. Mullen. I have not heard back from him, but we're going to need a motion to allow me to sign it once it's been approved by town council.
So Joe, just a quick question I have is, having gone through it, a lot of it seems like it's a contract not specific to what we're doing, but just a contract they kind of send out.
There was an attachment. Did you see that?
No, I did, but in the body, there's a lot like change orders and additional work and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
their scope is very specific. So I guess it's probably just a boilerplate contract that they kind of do a quick amendment to.
I assume that was the case. Joe Conway, I think you're on. Joe?
Yeah, Joe, I interpreted it basically the same way. That's, their standard, service contract with the attachment pertaining to our project, as a supplemental. I didn't see anything from my point of view that jumped out to me that was, more unique than doing this at any other project.
And Joe, are the dollar values assigned to each task what you were expecting?
I thought that the contract came in just about where the estimate was. Some of the dollar values I expected to land pretty close to where they were because, it's no secret that firm has experience with that building. So some of the places where, they might have been able to be a little bit lower is probably just because of familiarity.
So, I mean, my question to that point is, for existing conditions, they're looking for $9,300. Don't they already know? I mean, I guess it was difficult for me to understand exactly what they were doing in each one of these phases.
So for existing conditions, I believe in the RFP, we have that they're gonna come out and give us a brand new layout and survey. I don't think that they have anything updated, probably since they were doing utility work in Broadway in the 80s. I don't think we've ever taken it to that level. They're familiar with a little bit of the environmental there. I don't know. I don't believe that they have any historical data as far as survey is concerned with that.
And what did we get? I can't remember what we got approved at town meeting.
100,000,
How much?
100,
Okay, so it's under that, so we have some wiggle room.
correct.
So do we, I mean, okay.
Chip, in terms of like historical data for what they had, are you referring to like what they did around the school project when we were there back in?
No, it's just, I know Weston and Sampson has been around working for Rick and Joe for a long time. And I just,
Oh, so different projects. Okay.
different projects, they've been, they're kind of the town go-to guy, which is why they probably were the only ones that submitted a proposal for this. And I just, want to make sure that we get really, that they're not just, that we really get what we're looking for.
Joe, if you want, I can speak to some of that or whatever you'd like to do.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Oh, you're on, feel free, jump in.
Sure. Jamie Fair, project manager with Weston and Sampson. So yeah, the existing conditions survey 9,300, that is for a new site topographic survey for the selected site. We were going to look at, it looked like a few different sites possibly. So not knowing what site we're going to be on, we put together what we felt like was a good allowance to have our surveyor go out and do a full topo and existing conditions plan. So there's a chance it could be on a property that we don't have any information on. And on the existing DPW property, we are wrapping up an assessment on repairs and safety under a different agreement, but that did not include like a site topographic survey. So that's the reason why that's in there. Yeah.
And the other question I had is, do we have a timetable on all of this somewhere in the contract?
We put in an estimated performance time of, I believe, 4 months. And
Is that in here?
yeah, that would be under the time clause. I'm scrolling to it right now. I think it's Article 4, time of project. We estimated at 4 months. So that's on page 2 of the PDF, the overall PDF under Article 4,
Yeah,
time of project.
Yeah, I see it.
yeah, I saw that in general terms. I just didn't know if you had, what I'd love to see is a breakout of when you think you're gonna hit all these different,
Oh, sure.
when you're gonna do things.
We can provide that. Yep.
In other words, so we can keep your feet to the fire.
Of course.
No, the reality is, when, if you look at all this, put some dates to your fee schedule so we have an idea of when we should be expecting things.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
We can do
that'd
that.
be great.
Yep.
Thank you for that explanation. That's great. Wonderful.
You're welcome. No problem.
Any other questions for Joe or for
My
Jamie?
only question had to do with the section 7.3 about the hazardous waste. In your proposal, there is some studies to do some investigations and limited, just to make sure, I'm sure legal will just make sure nothing's being missed in the contract to what we have to do for discovery of these during this versus what you're actually going to be doing. So that's all. I just know that there was some comments made about some possible information in that area. Just make sure the contract lines up with whatever tasks we're going to be having the engineer do, I guess, is more of a comment to the legal counsel for Wakefield.
Okay, that's a comment for legal counsel, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, yep, okay.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we give Joe permission to sign the agreement for engineering services by and between the town of Wakefield and Weston and Sampson as presented to us this evening,
Subject
Pending
to,
town council, right?
subject to review by town council.
I'll second that.
any other discussion? Chip,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Janine?
Yes.
Jason?
Yep.
Jerry?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay. And I say yes, it's unanimous. The next item,
Thanks, guys.
thanks, Joe. Thanks, Jamie.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Take care.
You too.
The next item is the high school request for services for the OPM. And let me explain a little bit. I've been working with Steve Mayo, Bob Ciroli, Ann Santos, through Doug Lyons, regarding this document that has to go to the MSBA on February 10th. When we initially got the information from MSBA, we were told, or we understood, I should say, that it is for the May meeting of the MSBA for their approval. We initially thought and understood that it wasn't until after the May meeting that we would then begin the request for services, putting it in the central registry, having meetings, having responses due, shortlist the respondents, interview, etc. We then found out today from the MSBA that has to be all done by the May meeting, which now means, folks, we're going to be Zooming a lot. I guess the best way to put it. Because the new dates, and I sent a subsequent one-page that Steve and I put in, Steve put in some of the new dates to get us to the May meeting. So just for your purposes, the request for services will appear in the central registry on February 25th. There will be an informational meeting and site inspection on March 10th. The last day for questions from respondents, March 12th. Responses are due March 17th. The respondents would be shortlisted on March 22nd. By March 24th, there would be an interview for the shortlisted respondents. I think we can play with that date, but somewhere around the 24th. Then by April, the beginning of April, negotiations would occur with the selected respondent. And it goes the normal way. If you do the number one choice and you negotiate, and if you don't reach an agreement, you go to number two. And then a final selection would be on April 7th, which would then give us time to begin. And it's our understanding, at least at this time, that the meeting of the MSBA would be May 3rd for approval of the OPM.
So that looks pretty doable, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it just means we're gonna be a little more active than we thought in the beginning in spring here. We were
Yeah,
hoping.
that's just, I mean, but really it's something we've done plenty of times before, which is look through stuff, make a short list and do a selection.
It's the same thing we did for the Walton. It's the same thing we did for the public safety building. So it's not anything unusual for us. I indicated to Steve, and it's in the document, that the entire building committee will be involved in it. We will be the voting members, but also the associate members will be involved and in that review of the, just like we did for the public safety building for the OPM. We're just going to do the same process as we did. There's, if you had a chance to look at this 26 pages of lengthy whatever, you'll see that there are criteria, and from that all of this criteria, this is a template from the MSBA. It's not something that we came up, Steve and I or anybody else came up with. We did, I did go through for the maximum point values. I changed a few from their normal ones, just because I think the area involving the most point value goes to the key personnel to find out who the personnel is, I think is the most important, rather than everyone has knowledge of the mass building code and things like that. So that's where we're at for the request for services for the high school. And if there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to hear them.
There are some spelling mistakes in it. Do we care?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I don't know who's gonna proof it, but like under the selection process and selection schedule,
What page are you on?
I'm on page 9 of 26.
Okay.
School for Doug Lyons is spelled SCHOLL.
Yeah, that's good enough.
It's how I'd spell it.
I know. That's why
Maybe it's for me.
that's why Mayo did it that way. No. We'll go through it again.
Yeah, and are we comfortable? I mean, I know you've been working the group. Are you comfortable that the facts and figures are accurate and correct?
Which facts?
Like when they talk about the dates and the amount of square footage and all of that stuff from,
That's all taken from the statement of interest.
okay, all
Yeah,
right,
all
so
of
it was
it
a
was-
little bit of plug and play?
There's a lot.
Okay,
There was a lot taken from the statement of interest. So I just assumed that those numbers were correct since they had been gone over before.
okay, and the revised March 2017 that's on every page, I'm assuming that's a MSBA revised date?
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with us,
It had
right?
nothing to do with us.
Okay,
In the introduction,
Yeah.
it says the numbers, and maybe I just don't know my numbers, but it's 100 mm to 200 mm.
Million.
Okay, that's how
You
you do
had
it.
to give a number. So
Okay,
we gave a number.
and for high schools, that's about right these days.
Yeah,
That's what I understand.
How many square feet?
252,000.
Times what, 500 or dollars per square foot now?
Well, at a million, at 100 million, it would be $4 a square foot. For 252 or
400.
thereabouts. Yeah, so that's about what it is when you think lab and everything else.
Yeah, 400.
400, yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say?
4 would be one hell of a bargain.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
I'll
good
buy a
deal.
school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do it.
let's do it. $4, right? Any other questions or comments?
So what do you need, Joe? A motion to
Yeah,
agree
yeah, I
to
think-
allow you to submit what we've seen?
Correct.
Who's gonna, someone should proofread. This is going for a school. We probably should have correct spellings. Is
No,
that,
That's pretty pathetic. I was involved in one of these for North Reading. And I helped to generate the SOI and all that. And our superintendent, who was an English teacher, he made certain that everything was dotted and crossed and was totally accurate. I can't believe that this is going forward with misspellings. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think someone needs to, as rough as it might be, if the spell
Indeed.
checker and the word processor is not doing it, someone needs to proofread this whole thing.
That
And
is
if Doug or
pretty bad.
someone Doug delegates to do it.
With the amount of money we're thinking about spending, we can't get damn spelling right? That's outrageous.
I'll let Mr. Mayo know.
Gee, I would.
I mean, I didn't find any others. That's the only one I came across.
Well, that's, if only one out of 26 pages, that's.
I didn't read it backwards though, so that's how I always checked it, so you don't get involved in reading. Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to make sure, so you have looked at it, Doug's looked at it, Bob's done it. You're comfortable that, and a lot of it was cut and paste?
Yes,
Yeah.
So I move that we allow Joe, after he speaks with Steve Mayo and gets it spell checked once again, to submit it. Are we submitting it or the school department? Who's
the
signing,
town,
you or Steve?
Steve.
That we give Joe the right to communicate with Steve and move it forward. Is that what you need?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, all
You have a
right.
second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, thanks, Jason.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor, let's say Chip,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
Jason?
Yep.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay, the next thing for the high school, and I sent this out today, I just got it today. But Steve indicated that this is the school building authority feasibility study agreement that I must sign. And Steve asked that we vote on that tonight to allow me to sign it on behalf of the town. The only question I had is it talked about a school building committee versus the permanent building committee. I just got this afternoon, so I'm going to clarify that. And it also has to go through town council just to make sure. I want to make sure before I sign anything that Mr. Mullen lets me do so. But outside, it looks like a standard form contract, so I don't think there's probably going to be an issue there. But I want to see if they want to change that school building committee to the permanent building committee, or somehow that's okay to have it be like that, even though we are going to be the building committee per se. Is there any questions regarding this feasibility study agreement with the MSBA?
I have a chance to read it.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I'll second whatever you just said about changing the name and making sure town council looks at it first, so.
All right, moved
So
by,
I move that we allow Joe to speak to town council in regards to making sure that the school building committee is the permanent building committee, and that he has no other issues with it. And given that, I would allow Joe to sign it and move it forward.
All right, I'll second that.
all right, any further discussion? Seeing none. Chip,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
Jason,
Yep.
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Okay, before we go to the public safety building, I noticed that Robin Greenberg is on the call, the Zoom. Robin contacted me a couple of weeks ago, in which the Environmental Sustainability Committee for the town wants to discuss issues with us and work with us. And I thought that was a great idea, and that Robin is just we're not gonna have any formal presentation or anything like that right now. Robin wanted to just give a brief overview as to what the issues are that they're dealing with, I guess, and somehow see how we can work together. So Robin, are you on?
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin Greenberg. I'm the Secretary of the Environmental Sustainability Committee here in Wakefield. Full disclosure, since you guys are talking about the high school, I am an architect. I work for a firm in Boston, and we do K-12 projects. But if it becomes an issue of our project, our firm going after any work in Wakefield, I'll make sure people know and make sure I don't create any issues on that. So I just wanted that disclosure to be out there. The environmental committee was formed about 1.5 years ago by the town council as a way just to advocate and look to ways to improve how the town operates. And as a permanent building committee, we recognize that how the buildings operate have a huge impact on the town's use of resources, both financial as well as utilities, and the environmental impact is huge. Buildings are one of the largest sources of issues, and so you guys have a large responsibility on how we can make sure that we make our current buildings and renovations and new buildings meet a standard that may exceed, certainly exceed what they have now, but the environmental committee is interested in maybe pushing an agenda that's a little more aggressive than state minimums. So we don't have necessarily an ask in terms of how far to go, but we want to work with you guys because you're involved with overseeing the project, selecting the teams that would work on it, and having established goals of what we want may influence, how you guys establish teams and see the projects through. So, the public safety building, I know that was a question about, HVAC systems and so forth, and efficiencies on that is kind of the smallest, but the high school is going to be gigantic, in terms of what utilities it will use and its impact on the environment, the site, water, the whole 9 yards. It isn't you, but we are aware of the VOTEC, and that's also located in Wakefield. As a resident, we will be impacted by it. So, I've attempted to reach out to their committee too, and we'll continue to try to do so to see, as the town that the school resides in, that we can, influence and let them know, what the town thinks about all things sustainability. So that's kind of my short intro. I don't know if people have questions about it. The committee consists of a group of open town members. It has a member from the town council, a member from the school committee, the DPW is represented, and the gas and light department as well. So we kind of look at it from a whole bunch of sides.
Hey, Robin, Jason Cohen, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you, Jason.
So can you give us a couple examples of some projects that you guys have worked on over the last 1.5 years since you were formed in town?
A small one, but one thing that Facebook gets a little buzz about is our recycling of plastic bags. I don't know if folks knew that, but we were the ones to find a way for the town to collect plastic bags. They were getting brought to Trex, or they went to Home Depot, but Trex used the plastic bags to make benches, and so we will be receiving, assuming town council approves the donation, 4 benches that will be at all the schools. So that's one of our initiatives, as a way to recognize waste streams and how to reduce them in town, or find alternative ways to do with them if we can't reduce the quantity. Last 2 Halloweens, we've organized at the schools pumpkin drops. So we've organized the composting of jack-o'-lanterns, assuming they aren't glittered, as a way to, again, so DPW is in the process of looking to find, the contract is up for recycling. So we've been in talks to them about, goals of ways to reduce just general waste streams. So that's, the clothing, the food waste, and then general rubbish and so forth. We are in talks, are folks familiar with the stretch code, the Massachusetts opportunity for a different level of energy code? So Wakefield does not currently have the stretch code. It is something that we are asking for the town to look at, and we'll be bringing to a future town meeting as a way to apply it to the town, again, to demonstrate that folks in town hope to, push the boundaries on efficiencies and to make things better. So those are some small things where, it's been 1.5 years and it's been a tough 1.5 years to some things to go, but having these conversations, we've worked with town council to create a, oh, and I'm forgetting what they called, but from a resiliency, having projects ask them, even if they can't address it, to ask the questions of how they are looking to try to be more resilient. The DPW has been using that when they've looked at stormwater on some of the projects on Main Street and around the lake. They've gone after state funding as a stormwater project. And so that is, so it's a air quality, water quality, reduced volume of stormwater that's getting sent to be processed. So it's, we save money as taxpayers when we can keep the water in town. So things like that. Those are kind of some of the topics we have on a monthly basis.
Awesome, thanks.
No problem.
Have you looked at, have maybe encouraged us to look into solar, wind, and like that? Is that part of your charge?
Absolutely. So I don't know if folks know, but in the last year, the water department has installed PV on top of where their pump house is at Crystal Lake. I don't know if we can take credit, but it's in those conversations that we have, bringing gas and light, DPW interest in getting PV. And our chair, Rob Darnell, did a survey of municipal owned buildings and looking at what their solar scores were as a way to help the DPW prioritize where is potential. Because just because you have a good solar score, and solar score is where you have good sunlight landing on it, trees or other obstructions don't block it. After you find something that's a good solar score, that doesn't mean you could put solar panels on it. You have to then make sure that the building can support the weight of solar panels and everything that goes with it. So, by that study looking at which roofs, the DPW could limit what resources are needed and just looked at, building by building instead of the whole portfolio. And we're also, the waste stream at the moment has been something we've been able to wrap because it's something that we can influence. The school is now no longer using styrofoam trays. We were the authors and coordinated with some civic members, the styrofoam changes in town that influence plastic bag and other plastics at retail spaces. So those are some of our things that we've been able to accomplish so far and start those conversations. So one thing that had come up and why I reached out to the board is, like I said, the buildings are huge, right? So, when you're looking for architects and OPMs and the teams, if you present saying these are our goals and then, whoever team you hire will help you study the goals, maybe add to them, look at due diligence on the possibilities. But if you present saying we are the type of town that seeks this, and this is to be filled in, that will influence who thinks that they are a good team partner for us, because not all firms and not all teams, have the same skills and experience, and it's to our benefit not to be someone's first time doing something, right? That they come with the understanding and the experience to help us do things, because the high school project is nothing like the town has done. And well, the Galvin was one size, the high school's even bigger, right? And I've lived in town now for 10 years, so I wasn't here for the building of the public safety, but what I've seen is, people asking questions afterwards, so, what do we learn from those projects? How can we improve efficiencies and things like that?
Okay.
Robin, Chip Tarbell.
Hi, Chip.
Nice of you to come on tonight. Question for you. Were you guys aware that there was a high school advisory committee put together? And if so, did you guys get on that?
High school advisory. You mean in terms of the
So there are
project?
two, there are
So
two,
I'm aware
two
that there's a
prongs to this project.
Yeah, so Susie, who sits on our board, is our school committee representative. And so I suggested that she go through the school committee to have a similar kind of conversation. So she made reference to us, a subcommittee, but, so I think that's what it was mentioned.
Okay,
So I went through Susie. Susie contacted the superintendent and, suggested that they start having these conversations. I just haven't been the one.
Yeah, so there's there's two prongs to this building project. One is the high school advisory committee, which a lot of these conversations can take place in their group. And then there's us. So I would suggest that through Doug and through whomever you're dealing with the school committee, that the advisory committees are really a great group to go through.
Great. I will, I'll confirm that who Susie was going through is that committee. 'cause
Yeah.
I didn't know who to ask for in terms of, putting the bug in their ear to start the conversation.
Yeah, she should find out, or, maybe one of your members is already a member of the advisory committee. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it, but good
Yeah.
suggestion. Thanks, Chip.
Yeah, I don't, as a matter of fact, I don't even think they've met yet, so would probably be good to get involved in it.
Okay.
And for the record, we also, with the Greenwood School Roof Project, we had discussions with the MLD to put a solar up there.
Yeah, it's
But
too heavy.
unfortunately, the roof could not support it.
Yeah, often the case with older buildings that, they can
Yeah.
handle snow, they can handle PV, they can't do both, and we have both, so.
Yeah,
But we were excited that it was explored, because we recognize, well, I guess I can't speak for the committee, but I recognize, and I think the rest of the committee recognizes that there are limitations, right? That there's the school could, if you did a whole lot more work, and we're not suggesting that we're in the position to do that. So that there's reasonable steps that people, I think, are exploring. And we also have members that sit on the Clean Lake group, recognizing that's a resource that is to everyone's benefit and making sure that it's safe and healthy and continues to be so.
Any other questions or comments for Robin? Well, thank you very much, Robin. Thank you for coming on. And I'm sure we'll be working with you and discuss further options as we go along, not only the public safety building, but also obviously the high school.
And I would add the DPW building is another opportunity. That place, I would assume, uses a whole lot of energy. And other resources.
That one. We don't have it. This is just a facility, DPW feasibility study for whether things could fit in there. We're not building anything yet there.
No, I know that, but just as a
Down the road,
as a
down
criteria for how you study the
Yep.
building, I would encourage you to look at it from a utility standpoint and other resources, because that is another way to study it, as well as the structure and other things, so programmatic in addition to this. So it kind of just adds to the list, I like to think.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, the next agenda item, and before we get to the next agenda item, nice talking to you, Jerry.
All right.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Take care.
All right, Jerry.
Night, everyone.
good night, Jerry.
Just for the record, Lynn texted me. Lynn Stapleton texted me. There is, when she talked about the school building committee, there is, as Chip mentioned, there's that school building advisory committee. So, and I think that, I don't know if Lynn was aware of that, but that meets some of that criteria that the MSBA has. I hope.
She went through it with us with Galvin.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So the next item is the public safety building, and Shane.
Yep. How we doing? Good evening,
Good.
everybody.
I'm making you a co-host. I did it without too much, hopefully.
Can everybody see that?
Yep.
So we'll just go through our standard, monthly update or bi-weekly update. On the agenda tonight is some administrative actions, some meeting minutes and invoices. We'll give a quick progress report, talk a little bit about the schedule, the budget, and then under other business or other discussion, we'll talk about the status of the construction manager, pre-qualification and selection committee. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the phasing and the logistics that we've been looking into so far, sort of pre-construction manager. So the first item is the meeting minutes. They were sent out with a package. Hope everybody had an opportunity to review them.
Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the January 14th, 2021 PBC meeting minutes as written.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, does anybody object to it? Minutes are approved.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the invoices. We have 3 invoices this month, one from Left Field, and we have 2 from HKT. The first one is the Left Field invoice. It's for just our feasibility and schematic services over the month of January in the amount of $5,000.
I move that we approve invoice number 3 from Left Field, invoice dated 1/31/21 for OPM services for the sum of $5,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Chip,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Tom,
yes,
it's unanimous.
Thank you. We have 2 invoices from HKT. The first invoice is for their basic services. That's for the schematic design services in the amount of $3,000. And we have a second one for their reimbursable services for the pre-design work we've done. And there's some also for the surveying, the laser work that they did at the beginning of January. So the first one there. So not sure if you want to take them individually or combined.
we'll take them individually. Shane, the only thing I'd like to do in the future, just so you get into the rhythm,
Yeah.
is tell me that you've reviewed them and you approve them.
Yeah, so I put the Left Field
Oh,
stamp
your
on
little
them there.
stamp?
Yeah, so that means that, I'll stamp them before it comes to the committee to show that I've approved them. So,
Okay, good enough. That's even better.
Yeah.
So I move that we approve HKT's invoice number 1-022023 dated 2/3/21 for designer services for the sum of $3,000.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Chip,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
Jason,
Yep.
Tim,
Yes.
Tom,
yep,
and I approve as well, unanimous.
And the second one, as I said, it's for the reimbursable services for some of the pre-design work and the laser.
so Shane,
scanning.
isn't the laser scanning already done?
It is, yeah, but the billing.
They didn't bill for it?
A little bit.
So what and whom are we paying on this?
So the pre-design is HKT's work. That's for the work they've done to date, attending building committee meetings, the advisory working group meetings, the work they've done on bringing all their consultants together. And then there's just $105 billed against the laser scanning. So just a small bill against that, but we'll probably see a much bigger invoice for that next month when they catch up with their paperwork.
Correct. That is correct, Shane. There'll be probably the laser scanning and the survey and geotechnical will all come in the next over the next month, so the next billing cycle.
Jane?
Okay, I move that we approve HKT's invoice number 2-022023.1 dated February 3rd for reimbursable expenses to the sum of $5,000.
No.
No,
It's actually
$1,050.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the previous balance doesn't matter.
That was approved last month, yeah.
Yeah, $1,050.
Okay, I second in the amount of 1,050.
Any discussion? Shane, when you send me a new copy of this where it's stamped, where it's approved, the approval stamp?
Yeah, for you, yeah.
Yeah, for me, just for signatures.
Yeah, let's send that in the morning.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion?
Joe's signature stamp on HKT's as well.
Yep, I need that on that one. All
Yeah,
of them.
so yeah, this stamp,
Yep,
that stamp there, I'll put it on HKTs.
yeah, send me a new copy of it. All right,
Yep.
Chip,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Janine,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Tom,
yes.
unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just a progress update. Since we met last, we've had 2 advisory working groups. The first one, we talked a little bit about the preliminary phasing and logistics, which we'll talk about later in this meeting. And the second one, we met yesterday. We went through some of the scope and the extent of the work limits. Janet did a presentation just to confirm where we're going to touch the building, the limits of the work in the building, and what's not being touched. So we'll look at that also later on this evening. The CM at risk request for qualifications.
We lost your audio, Shane.
Oops.
Shane's internet is jumping around.
I
Shane,
thought mine was bad.
Shane, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost the last 15 seconds or whatever you said.
Sorry. So yeah, just the RFQ process has started. But 16 or 17 firms have picked up the RFQ, and we'll talk about that later in our presentation. And then, as I said, HKT and their consultants are all working on the schematic design documents now. They did the scan. Janet and her team have the model and have started to construct that. So we're moving forward with the schematic design.
Great.
Our schedule.
So Shane, I missed that. Does Janet's team have the plans now?
They do. They have the point cloud and all the information that they got during the survey and the laser scan. So they take that information and they start building a BIM model, a building information model with that information.
Yeah,
So that's-
Chip, we just got the model yesterday, so it
Okay.
takes it takes
So
a
you're
bit.
done.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's all done now.
Yeah, no, and it was, and I have to say that it's, very complicated and very preliminary, so it's going to take a while to build the whole thing, but they're working on that. It's ongoing. So
And remind me the date to have that completed by?
we don't have an exact date from them. Amy is in the process of talking back and forth with them. I am not the Revit person, so she's talking with them. In fact, we just were talking before this meeting, so she's gone back and forth with them, asking questions. So
Okay.
okay.
So that brings us to schedule. So we are looking to have the schematic complete by the beginning of April. Have a schematic design package ready to go to the estimators. We'll complete the estimates in April. Hopefully, we also have a CM on board at that stage. So by the end of April, we'll have 2 reconciled estimates, and we'll have a good idea where we are compared to the project budget. So no changes to the schedule since we last presented. Project budget, again, no changes since last month. We're still tracking on budget. I also attached the detailed budget. So just updated that to show the invoices paid to date. We've just paid just over $14,000 to date. So really not a lot of activity within the budget. If anybody has any questions on that.
Shane, have you been including in the breakdown of this budget the bills that we paid tonight, or do you?
No, I'll input those in after tonight, Joe, now that they've been approved. I wait until they're approved and then I'll input them.
Okay, and that's what that's your standard operation?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, that's good to know because we need to know if down the road.
I think what can happen is if we have questions about budgets or whatnot, we can, have them at it previous to our meeting if we need to figure out where we stand on something. I know we did that a lot with contingency at the Galvin, Joe.
Yep.
Was that, if we approved everything, this is where we would stand.
Yeah.
In the past, we've accounted for the estimates that are put before you for approval and indicated that they were included in the budget just to show where you were at if you approved the invoices, as opposed to revising the budget after the fact. And as Chip said, we included any things we wanted to reserve contingency for as well.
For
I mean,
contingency.
fortunately, we're just getting going, so
Yeah.
there's plenty of money right now.
So yeah, once we get going, we'll also, add a contingency log. So there'll be a log of each contingency expenditure that you'll be able to see on one page. We haven't touched contingency and we don't expect to touch it for some time.
I hope not.
So that's our budget, then getting to the other business. So really a lot of the work that's happened in the last month on our side is the construction manager pre-qualification. So just the schedule. As I said, the RFQ was made available last.
Oh, froze again.
Lost you again.
Firms who are interested, about 16 firms. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shane, we lost you for a couple minutes there.
Shane, you might want to turn your video off. It might help with so you don't break up.
So our schedule.
Oh, didn't help.
Good try, though. I would have tried.
The RFQ, as I said, is out the streets, been picked up by a number of firms.
Lost you again, Shane.
Yeah.
We lost you. Still can't hear you.
So maybe while he's coming back on, as Shane said, a number of firms have picked up the RFQ, and currently there is coverage in all the trade bids. But I know that Shane has done some outreach to try to get to, try to drum up as much interest from file subbidders as possible. And what you see here in red is the schedule moving forward in terms of the submission of statements of qualifications and the time frame to qualify contractors.
So what are the
Originally-
two dates? I see like on committee review, February 11th to the 23rd, and then I see to come February 11th through 18th.
One is file subbidders or actually these are CMs, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, no, the February 11th through the 23rd is the statement of qualifications. They submit those, you review them, and then you decide which firms that you approve. And then from those, you give them a request for qualifications.
Right. What
And
I'm asking is what are the two sets of dates?
The first one is review of the statement of qualifications, and then.
So is that the 11th through the 23rd or the 11th through the 18th?
11 to the 23rd is, go ahead, Shane, can you talk now?
Oh,
I thought we tried to shorten that date, which is what I think the 11th through the 18th is.
That's what I thought too, but I thought we were going to meet on the 18th.
yeah, I thought we had asked to reduce that time period last time.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I guess that's what the second box means. I see what you're saying. Yes.
Okay, that might be
I think
what
he's
we decided.
accelerating all the dates, which makes sense. So that's good.
Yeah, on the right-hand column, it looks like he's accelerating the dates.
Yeah.
Right. Whoop. Now we lost the whole thing.
He wasn't used to working with us, Lynn, and how quick we can turn things around.
Yeah.
I'm sure he
Yeah,
probably
you're real quick.
signed off and to sign back on so he could talk. So.
Okay. It's my
But I was-
understanding that we were gonna get the the pre-qualifications and that we would meet again in 2 weeks on the 18th and go through them and do our, the voting like we did before.
Yeah, and when I first started talking, I was mixing this up with another job that we're currently doing.
There are no other jobs, Lynn. I've talked to you about that before.
Only
Says, God, I hope not.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Shane.
Hey, Shane.
All right,
Shane, I did a poor job of representing you. Go ahead.
Did we lose him again?
Yeah. The only thing I can offer at this point, I was going to give a little, Shane asked me, and yesterday at the committee, Joe, remember to show an abbreviated version of the longer meeting yesterday. I have that if you want to jump ahead and do that while Shane is trying to reconnect here. That's just in case. So.
Sure, that'll make sense while he's.
Is that the phasing of logistics plan?
No, that's Shane's thing. This is about the scope of the schematic design.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Oh, there's Shane again. Okay, I won't jump in. He's a bit of a ghost though, so.
Yeah, he's not looking too good.
He's not looking very.
Sorry, guys, can you hear me now?
A little bit.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. So yeah, so the dates I heard you asking about. So the date in the middle or on the left was the original dates we had proposed. We have the STEMS qualification coming back on February 10th. I think we're going to try and push the review back a week, reduce that review period.
Yeah.
So that we would review the STEMS qualifications by February 18th. And perhaps we will have a building committee and a pre-qualification committee meeting on the 18th.
We will.
Yeah. So we can take it that these are the dates here then. So what I plan to do.
So Shane, to do that, what date are you going to need our scoring sheets?
So
are you gonna coordinate that, or am I, or who?
I'll coordinate that. Chip, what I'll do is we get the similar qualifications on Wednesday. I've arranged with Chief Scorey. We're going to leave them in the police station on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. I'll let everybody know when they're there, so people can go in and pick them up at their convenience. I'll go through them on Thursday. I'll update that matrix that I sent out this week. I'll fill all the information in on that. And then down at the bottom of that matrix, we'll look at it in a moment. That's where you guys will need to score it. So hopefully I have all the information out to you guys by Thursday, and that'll give you, Friday to the following Wednesday to do that and send them all back to me.
So February, so
by February
what date do
17th, I
you
really
need
need
them
them.
back?
February 17th.
Okay.
To coordinate them for a meeting on the 18th.
Yeah.
And are the proposals are going to be in the community room?
Yeah, I'll work that out with Chief Scorey, but we thought if we leave them in the community room, people can just go in, grab their package and take them home with them.
Okay.
And the building will be open for them to get in.
What date will that be?
I'm hoping to get them there Wednesday afternoon. I'll get the
Which
statement.
Wednesday, though? The 10th or the 17th?
The 10th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Checking.
So I'll get them at 2 o'clock on the 10th. I'll divvy them up, sort them out, and drop them off later on Wednesday evening.
Okay.
But really, they're going to be available Thursday, the 11th.
Yeah.
More than likely, yeah. But I'll send an email out, guys, when I've dropped them out to confirm that they're there and ready to be picked up. So
okay.
All right, that makes
I'll
sense.
let you know when they're there.
Good.
And that gives us a weekend, which is great.
It gives you 4 or 5 days, yeah. In that time, as I said, we'll do the matrix. We'll send out requests for references, and I'll get those to you as quick as I can. We may not have those back until the meeting on the 18th, but we can certainly start reviewing the statement qualifications and scoring that based on those, and then we can update it based on the references that I get. If we can shortlist on the 18th, I can get the request for proposals out on the 19th. Right now, that's with town council being reviewed. So as soon as I get that back, I'll send it out to the committee for a preview also, but we will get that out immediately after we shortlist and approve a group of construction managers. So hopefully on the 19th, I would propose that we still give them till the 27th to submit their proposals.
17th.
Yeah, March 17th.
A month?
It's about 3.5 weeks.
Do they need that long?
I mean, the RFP phase is a little more detailed than the qualification phase. So I think if we give them an extra week, you know, they'll have a better chance to take a look at it. I think it'll be more competitive. They'll get to know the project a bit more. And I think on the back end, as long as we have them on board before April 2nd, which is the date we want to have the schematic design documents to the estimators, we're okay. So I think we have it in our schedule that we can give them until the 17th.
Okay.
And then we'll get them back, we'll review them. You know, again, in the box down below here, I don't know if we want to do separate meetings for the interviews or we want to do them as part of a regular building committee, Joe. You know, from the OPM meetings, it's probably, you know, 3 or 4 hours of interviews, just the interview portion of it. So maybe, you know, we don't have to decide tonight, but we should think about whether we do that as a regular building committee or we have a separate meeting to interview these folks.
I think I'm probably leaning toward a separate meeting. I don't know what everybody else feels.
Okay.
What do you think, Chip?
Separate meeting.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Okay.
Just concentrate on the interviews and keep the project on a separate night.
Yeah.
But Shane, we'll be a lot less
Okay,
than 3 or
so
4
can I,
hours.
Joe, talk about that?
Joe's running the meeting.
Yeah, we don't do 3 or 4 hours, Shane. I start falling asleep after, you know, after 2.5 at my age, you're just gonna go down.
We'll get through it pretty quick. So we'll work on that, Joe, an exact date when everybody's available. But I'd like to, you know, April 2nd is really our drop dead date to have somebody on board so they can start the schematic estimates.
Good.
So just, you know, I wanted to confirm the pre-qualification selection committee. It's the full building committee minus Jerry, who has a possible conflict of interest.
Not possible.
There'll also be myself as part of the OPM team. We're required to be part of it, and then either Janet or Amy will be part of it too. For the designer, they're required under the Mass General laws to be part of the selection committee. And then we'll have the chief, the deputy chief, and Chief Sullivan also as non-voting members to take a look at those. So that'll be the pre-qualification committee and also the final selection committee. These are the contractors that have picked up. I sent that out last Friday too, so it's a good mix of contractors there. There's some of the other big contractors around the Boston area in Massachusetts, some of the smaller guys. Really until next Wednesday when they submit, I'm not sure who actually will. Just picking up the RFQ doesn't mean they'll submit, but you know, we have a good range of contractors there, so hopefully we'll get a number of them to submit. Just so that the RFQ, I did send out the RFQ to everybody last week. I'm not sure if anybody had any questions on it. It was a 40-page document or so. If anybody's managed to go through it. A lot of it is just, you know, language we're required to carry under the 149A, where we have to set out the process, the scope of work, and then the back end of it, part 3, is the standard forms that the contractors will fill out. So, you know, if people have any questions, please email me. But it pretty much sets it out. It's a straightforward process. This is what we'll ultimately get. We'll get the statement of qualifications form the contractors are required to fill out. Then there's a number of schedules, qualifications, application. Again, that's just the tells us what kind of company it is, if it's a partnership, a corporation, a joint venture. Executive summary will just be a summary of why this firm thinks they should be picked as the CM at risk. The management personnel and organizational chart, that's the team they're proposing for the project. Similar project experience, they'll list all the projects that are similar to our project here, give us an idea of what they've done in the past. Schedule E, they're required to list all their terminations, incomplete projects, liquidated damages, or legal proceedings. Schedule F is their safety record over the last 3 years. It's standard stuff that they get from their insurance companies. Schedule G is their audited financial statement from last year. And then Schedule H and I are standard state forms that they're required to submit. They have to give us a letter from their surety, giving us evidence that they can bond the project. The project is estimated at 6.65 million, so they have to be able to bond that. Certificate of eligibility is a state form that they get from the state every year to say that they're eligible to bid and do public work, and an update statement is another state form that they submit with that. And then we just ask them for some examples of reports that they use in-house. So this is what we'll expect to see in the statement of qualifications, and this is what we'll base our review on. Questions? And then on the next slide, this is the evaluation criteria and what we'll actually evaluate them on. So as I said, there's some required documentation they have to submit. We've set out that they need to have done at least one construction manager at risk project, which they'll all have to be able to demonstrate they've done. The bonding capacity I mentioned, they'll have to get a letter from their bonding company, and then the DCAM certification and update statement are standard forms that they fill out. And they must submit all of those, or we cannot allow them to move on to the next phase, the proposal phase. And then what we'll really rank them on and score them on and evaluate them on are the team that they submit and the organization of that. Similar project experience, the volume of work. We want to make sure they have the capacity to do this project when it's scheduled to happen. Their terminations, incomplete projects, and legal proceedings. We don't want somebody who was an issue with previous projects. Safety records, obviously we want somebody with a good safety record on the project. And then financial status, we want to make sure that these guys have the financial ability to do the project. So that's all contained in this matrix I sent out. As I said, that the top part of it, when I get the qualifications, I'm going to fill all this information out, send it back to everybody, and make sure they have all those schedules in there in the required forms. List out the actual individuals, their names here. Any comments, I list their similar projects for everybody to look at. I'll do some reference checks, make sure we get some reference checks on everybody before we decide whether they're qualified or pre-qualified. And then down at the bottom here in the blue box is what we'll be looking for the committee to fill out. So based on your review of the statements of qualifications, if you folks can start looking at it and filling out these boxes. Obviously, if you look at it, there'll be firm A, B, C, D, whatever number of firms we have. I'll do the reference checks. I'll fill that out once I have the references. And for this phase, we ask that you just fill it out either. We use the scoring as either highly advantageous, advantageous, not advantageous, or unacceptable. So if you can fill out these boxes, send them to me by the 17th, and I'll coordinate that, and we'll agree on a final selection then on the meeting on February 18th. So it's a pretty complicated, perhaps, matrix, but it'll be straightforward. It will give us everything in one snapshot when we come to pre-qualifying or qualifying these contractors. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions on that. It's a lot of information.
Shane, I assume that this evaluation criteria, the sheet here is going to be more than one page, because when it comes printed, I couldn't, I got glasses, but they're not that strong. So, yep.
Yeah, well, I could send it out as one page per contractor, or you probably would have to print it on 11 by 17, Joe.
Okay,
Yeah, if you print it on 8.5 by 11, you're not going to be able
can't do it.
to read it.
Yeah,
You need a big magnifying glass. So,
that's right.
yeah, so, yeah, folks will probably have to print it on 11 by 17, or I can send it out, 1 page per contractor too, if that helps. So I'll do
Yeah,
both.
maybe send it out 2 pages just to
Yep.
make it easier. Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay,
send
so,
it out 2 pages.
yep. So
All right.
again, yeah, email me if you have any questions. It is a public committee, so we can't confer over email. So if you have any questions, just email me, and if I need to respond, I'll respond to the whole committee with your queries.
Okay.
Okay. So then the second thing I had tonight was the preliminary phasing and logistics. So we've started looking at, how we're going to do this project. It's a relatively small building and a lot of work going on inside it. So, we talked about breaking it down into phases and then mini phases within those phases. We had a good advisory working group a few weeks ago to go through it. We went through it in a lot of detail. I will say that this is Left Field and HKT's initial review of this. The reason we're doing a construction manager at risk is because we want them to have some input in this. So once we have a CM on board, they'll really take this over and they'll start to put together a more detailed phasing and logistics plan. But as we know the project now, this is kind of what we're thinking. So quickly, phase 1 would be the main entrance. I think it might be easier if I just go to our diagrams. So this is the first floor. So phase 1, we're proposing that we do the central core here. This is the main entrance as it is today. You come in this door. This is the main lobby there. There's records, I think, are back here. So we would do this. This is where dispatch is going to be relocated from the second floor, I believe, down to here. So we can do this as a phase 1 in about 5 months, maybe 6 months. Allow dispatch to continue operating on the upper floors. When this is completed, we can move dispatch down there with little or no disruption to dispatch operations. So we recommend we get in, do that as the first phase, and move dispatch down there, open up the entrance to the building again so the public can come and go. We did talk a little bit to the fire department, police department about their access to the building. We pointed out some of the ways they can get in. We talked a little bit about how the public will enter the building. We still need to work on that a little bit. There's an issue of once the public get into the building, how they'll communicate with the fire department and the police department. Probably have to put a temporary intercom in somewhere to have them communicate and let folks know they're in the building. But phase 1 will be that central core on the first floor. After that, phase 2, which gets pretty complicated. I think we have it broken up into about 6 or 7 different phases, just based on trying to move folks around, keep everybody in the building. That was one of the tasks that we were given, is to do this project without moving any of the building services or operations out of the building. So we're going to start immediately with the addition here, and we'll start that at the same time as phase 1. We can do the foundations, we can do the structural steel, we can enclose the buildings, put the windows in the roof on, make it weather tight while people are working in the building. That phase will take about 10 months from start to finish, including all the fit out. Then within the building, on the first floor, the second floor, and the third floor of the existing building, we're kind of leapfrogging around. We have 6 different phases for that. We'll move folks out of their spaces, we'll get in, we'll renovate them, we'll get out, and we'll let them move back in. So there's a lot of leapfrogging around. I think if you look at the schedule here, it kind of gives you a good idea. That's the phase 1, the the dispatch on the first floor. Phase 2, that's that 3-story addition, will take 10 months. While we're doing that, we'll do some renovation on the second floor. We'll take over the second floor. We'll do the new roll call and lunchroom up there for 3 months. Then we'll move to the third floor. We'll do some renovations on the third floor. At the same time, we're back on the first and second. And then to complete the project, the last 2 months is sort of we're running back to the second floor and first floor. So it's complicated phasing plan. As I said, it's preliminary. We really need the input of the construction manager, but there's going to be a lot of work in the building, a lot of disruption, but we think we can do it while maintaining the full operations in the building. If not, we talked a little bit about the possibility of a trailer outside for temporary space. We're using some of the fire department space, specifically the fitness room, but that's still to be decided. So a lot of work on the phasing, guys. It's a lot of information to go through. Any questions on that? And then our final phase will be the Sally Port at the back. That would be what we call phase 3. That can really happen at any time. We'll coordinate that with the police department, obviously. While the Sally Port is being redone, the police department won't have access there. We talked a little bit about how they would transport prisoners into the building and into the booking cell. So perhaps use this door here. They would still have access to this back door here. We would cordon off the area that we're working in, but allow them to bring prisoners in this back door around and into the booking area here. So we would likely wait until phase 1 is finished, and then we can do that over any 4-month period.
You're out again, Shane.
What?
We expect that to take about 4 months, the phase 3.
I think this is all a great starting point. I think that this is why we're going CM at risk, and I'd want to get their feedback as well. It just seems to me like the 3-story addition, 10 months, that sounds to me like a long time for such small square footage, but maybe I'm nuts. But
well, part of it, Chip, is we'll start right away, and we got to decide when we can sort of get into the building, right? Because the folks in the existing building have to move out. We can get in here and renovate the space,
right.
Get them back in. So there's a little bit of coordination between that, and that's why, if you look, for example, here, on the first floor, this will end up being evidence. So we're going to move the roll call and report writing out. We can do this at another time while we renovate that space. We can move them upstairs. So the 10-month is because we really got to coordinate new with the existing. Perhaps we can hand over the second floor after 8 months, the third floor after 9 months, the first floor after 10 months or something like that. But again, we really need the construction manager to
correct. Yeah.
And then obviously, continue to work with the police department, because they're going to have to move out and move in as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great starting point.
Yeah, but you can kind of see the leapfrogging and the in and out, of what we're calling phase 2. These mini phases within that. So that's it for me tonight. Anybody else has anything?
Shane, Janet said you asked her to talk about something.
So John, I was just going to give an update on what we talked about yesterday with the advisory committee. Again, just looking at the extent of the work and the work limits, where we're going to be touching and where we're perhaps not going to be touching. So I think Janet is going to
Joe,
share.
you'll have to make me a co-presenter here. And we can't hear you, Joe, so.
Okay, I think it's your co-host now.
Okay, let me see. Okay, can you guys see my,
Got it.
Yep.
okay, I'm going to try to make this quick. And some of you were on the call yesterday, so I've shortened this presentation down quite a bit, but the focus was to describe what was owned in the phases that we had done, the planning we had done before. There's a little bit of exterior work to coordinate with the location of the new addition. And, the light poles are remaining, the flag poles will be reinstalled, the memorial stone is to be relocated, and the historic police department sign on the front of the building that's in the above the door. We were trying to hopefully reinstall that somewhere. From an MEPFP, this is a very long conversation. I'm not going to do it tonight, but there's going to be changes that are going to affect probably every space in the building at some time or another over the course of it as we replace systems, extend systems, reuse systems. There's going to be work. We talked a little bit yesterday about some of the problem areas at the fire department side to make sure that those are not missed in any of this. But they won't be. That was part of the study. So I mentioned that. I also, in the green boxes here, let me see if I can get a little pointer for you. The green boxes here, we had talked about, and when we were talking about the phasing, about how to bring the public in, what kind of spaces might be used, what areas are available for us potentially to do anything else. And one of them is, if we come in this entry, how do we meet the public? Where do they go? What's the limitations of them? We also talked about using the training, the main floor of the training community room to see if that could offer us some space for offices or whatever. And then I pointed out in the back possible use in the garage area. Maybe not for the Sally port, although you could. There's an elevator right here and stairs right adjacent, but you may have to have an impound bay available for something that's brought in. So we noted that as well. And then as far as the addition and what it is impacting, it's impacting the public entry, the lobbies for the police and fire department, records, licensing, the community room, and then all of these adjacent rooms. So what Shane was talking about, the moving back and forth between the addition, how the systems from one building or the existing building are then moved into this building. All of that is part of the planning. I'm blowing each one of these up a little bit more to tell you about the scope. So anything in purple is pretty much what we're working on right now. There's, little bits and pieces, but there's going to be new ceiling, base, flooring, and painting in all the corridors, as well as any new constructed space or a space that gets touched. And I noted that there was bulletproofing in the walls in the lobby, as well as at the transaction windows. People always ask at, especially nowadays with things that we've seen in some stations. There is no work in the fire department offices or conference rooms or in the community room unless we do some work that requires to be undone for phasing. We'll be removing this raised slab for the dispatch extension and doing work to make that be on the same level. And then there's no work in the locker rooms, the men or the women's locker room. And it is color purple because there is a little bit of work as we extend into what is the office space there. So there's a little bit of work there. And there's no work in the stairs and the elevators and things, except for painting the stairs. We recognize that those stairs will need to be upgraded for the project. In the garage area, there's minimal work. There's some visible, there was at least 3 or 4 years ago, repair. There's some rebar corrosion and rusted deck that was pointed out by the structural engineer. I think there's a little bit of a dent in a concrete wall that will probably own repair of that stuff. And then the construction of the office and toilet rooms. So you're going to have to relocate that storage day one, because that's all in phase one. So that's the off of Princess Street garage. From the upper level of this, again, the additions are going to affect the Sally Port and detention area, whether it happens in phase one or phase two or phase three is going to happen at some point. We're going to have to plan for it. And it's going to affect the side door where the police department uses that side entry a lot, and of course all the rooms adjacent to where the addition's going. I mentioned at the I probably have another slide here. I'll go back to this. So again, there's no work in the fire department on this level or the fitness area. Again, we looked at the fitness area as one of the possible areas. It's a joint fitness room. It's heavily used, but we may have to use that for something for this to make this work for everyone better. Again, new ceilings, floor base, and all of the new spaces. Back here in the Sallyport area where we're doing it, we're going to be affecting the cell area, but we're not adding to them. We're taking away. We're building a new wall to cut this this part off and turn this into storage for the Sallyport. We're going to be reconfiguring the access to the dumpster. And then there will be a lot of related work to the mechanical systems and all that area back there, and work in the armory to close it down from the Sallyport and the impound bay. One thing we did, I got in the preliminary code analysis, and it's pretty good. You know, there are a couple of things that we're going to have to address. One of the things that we was uncertain about is the egress for the detention area, whether we can actually go through this and out an overhead door. So we're going to check into that further, a little bit more about that. But all good news, essentially from the code point of view. No work in the apparatus bays. The only issue in that was the difference from the apparatus bay door threshold to the apron outside. And there's a step to it. There's some settlement or something. We're going to do some investigation of that. Again, third level, same things. Additions will impact, you know, the people that live up here, which are the detectives right now. So that will be impacting them. We have in the original scope a limited work on the roofs, but we did talk about replacing all the roofs. If we're replacing all of the rooftop equipment, this might be the best time to do that. The roof age, I mentioned we have an envelope consultant on the project. If we want him to look at any of that work, we can do that at any point, and he can do an assessment of what he thinks of the quality of that. From listening to the Robin from the Environmental Sustainability Committee, you know, we have a nice big flat roof up here, but unfortunately, it's probably not designed to take anything more than the equipment that's on it. But we could certainly have the structural engineer take a peek at that if there's anything. It's about there's just a little bit of space up there. There's not a whole lot. And the only other new roof that we're building that we can influence is this little piece here. And that's probably 1,300 square feet, not counting including parapets. So it's a little footprint to do anything significant in. So I just wanted to point that one out. And that's it for me. So, you know, this just defines the scope. We're trying to prevent scope creep into the project if we can, and stick to the budget we have. And again, if we hear anything from the CM that affects anything, we'll obviously include that into the plan development. Does anybody have any questions?
Anybody?
Yep.
No, thank you.
Great.
A good overview.
Okay, great. All right. I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint and hopefully, how do I do that? There it is. Stop sharing. There you go. Okay.
All right. Any questions or discussion regarding Shane's and Janet's review? Chief Scory, you have anything?
No, Joe, I'm good. Yesterday's conversation was pretty productive, I thought. And got a lot of things taken care of.
All right, great. Craig, anything?
No, I'm all set.
All right.
Good, thank you.
One of that was a very interesting conversation that we had about the use of the fitness room, and I think it's something we might want to explore. I don't know how and when we're going to be doing that, but it's that might solve some of our real moving people around issues, to say the least. All right. Does anybody have anything else?
When do we need our next meeting, Joe?
2 weeks,
18th.
February 18th. We're gonna get our
That's our next meeting? Yeah.
packages on the 11th. Shane will get us, let us know when they're there. So it's probably not until that Thursday. Then you will have everybody on the committee will have until the 17th to do your grading on the sheets that Shane will provide. And we will meet then on the 18th to go over, to see which one of the CM at risk companies we're going to ask for interviews, to shortlist them. Okay? Has everybody got that?
Yep.
Any questions regarding it?
I just have a question for Shane. Shane, do you think we're going to have a working group meeting on Wednesday?
I think in 2 weeks' time, we're doing them every other week. So.
Every other week? Okay.
Yeah, so I think the 17th was the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm gonna have to, without the model done yet, I'm kind of worried about that scope as the MEPFP. I'm gonna talk to you about that, Shane, just in case we may have to shift that a week to get them to have enough information. But I'm talking with them right now, so I'll let you know about that, okay?
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh, that's always a good motion.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Good night.
Yeah.
Take care.
Good
Great.
Good night.
Good work, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.